Yes, indeed. Our conversation tonight is on the youth card, a card that is of consideration and one that is very important, but one for some reason that has been sidelined. And today in studio, I am joined by the Ford Kenya Youth League Secretary General, Victor Kirui, who's also the former president in Karatina University, although he prefers to tell me that they call that seat as a chairman seat in that place, but here it's a president that will recognize it as so, because this is a youth leader who can be able to tell us about his challenges and everything that he's been through, being a young leader and one who's also seemingly in the political arena. Victor, welcome to our studio right here at KUTV.
Many thanks.
Now, straight to it, Victor. The youth are quite a number. It's quite immense, the number of young people who are involved in the, looking at the whole, like even if you were to subdivide the country as it is, even in the completed elections, we saw a lot of youth practically on the campaign side, quite a lower number contesting to see themselves into office. Looking at matters as they are right now, do you see like the place for the youth in these 5 years that we are going before we go into another session such as the one that we've had, have a proper place in the political angles?
Firstly, Emmanuel, many thanks for such an opportunity to be with KUTV and to address issues of youth. And I'd like to also say good evening to our viewers back there at home and all the youths across the country. To your question, fine. If we just take stock quickly of the previous government and what they were able to achieve within the last decade of Jubilee government, I can say they did quite remarkable. But of course, there are areas where we feel as young people that we need more reinforcement and we need enhanced inclusivity, enhanced participation in the country's politics. To your, immediate question on, now going to the future, I think, Emmanuel, we are set to having maybe robust reforms when it comes to addressing youth issues based on the number of advocacies and the way they have been articulated in their campaigns, which were run by the Kenya Kwanza Alliance. So we are very optimistic and we look forward to major transformational policy changes and maybe sectoral improvement on youth issues, on addressing youth issues. Thank you.
And Victor, looking at matters as they are right now, we are seeing the government being very quick to see how fertilizer will be lowered prices and all that is. And if you are to look at the subdivision of the youth who are involved in matters of agriculture or the like, it's quite a low number. So, and still unemployment is a problem that is directly affecting the youth. When we see drastic measures being applied to be able to solve certain matters, but not necessarily the matters that affect the youth directly, is it something that does bear optimism in moving forward and actually being able to look at it as in the youth are still being addressed and will be addressed and their issues will be looked at by the government that is currently?
Yes, I think first things first, when the government was just, after the swearing in of the president, now it's almost weeks into office, and there are those 20 issues which obviously we expected the head of state to quickly look into as he got into office. And there is a way government works and will respond to certain matters. However, they are very, very pressing as they seem, but there's a way they do, respond to them. I believe, however much youth issues might be rising to be very, very vital, this is too early anyway to, in any way, castigate that maybe the government is giving priority to other things. I believe when they were campaigning, they were talking putting forward many promises towards the economy, and they were talking about the unbearable cost of living, the skyrocketing prices of consumables, and most of the things which actually the population were raising there in the crown. However, yes, youth issues are very, very vital. I think we still have good time to give time to the sitting government to come back and maybe settle on these things going forward. So we're very optimistic going forward.
Okay, Kipkorir, there's something I'd like to also address. You see, in fact, among my group of followers and those who actually look at the stories that happen here in KUTV, someone was very concerned when they heard tonight we are speaking on matters of politics. Fact being, they are young and they are not really, they see quite a big disconnect between politics and them as the youth. Kindly, you are a Ford Kenya Secretary General in the Youth League, which means for some reason you see an importance of being part of the politics as it is currently. Kindly connect to us. Why is the politics of the day that important to the youth currently?
Emmanuel, I believe, over time we've been told, repeatedly that the youth ought to take their place in society and maybe claim certain leadership responsibilities in the country if they really want to see change and if they really want to make change themselves. We've been advocating for change for almost, since independence. And it's time now that we take that to the stage and demonstrate to the population, to the country at large, that we are fit enough to be trusted or entrusted with these leadership responsibilities. But look, it's very important that youths now need to consider leadership and majorly political leadership, because that's where the topmost decision making is carried out. So I believe as an active player in the youth leagues and youth movements and youthful activities around politics, I believe political issues cannot be viable enough without youthful incorporation within them. So I just feel like we are in the right trajectory and we should really claim our position in this society.
Optimistic view right there, Victor Kirui, but we are pressed for time. And in the final sentiments, I love to indulge you with the recent ruling by the Speaker of the National Assembly, where he actually determined the Kenya Kwanza Alliance as being the majority in the National Assembly. What is your reaction on this ruling?
Well, quickly on that, it's one of the most recent and very, very prudent ruling ever made in the House of Parliament. I believe the Speaker, being a seasoned lawyer and a seasoned legislator who've been in politics for quite a long, I believe he was well informed in his ruling to find that it's within the wisdom of the House to have the majority of the seats as provided for in Article 108 of our Constitution go to Kenya Kwanza. Emmanuel, there's this thing. When the Political Parties Act were amended recently, it really shaped and made serious changes to how we govern our political parties. We were even told that, a coalition can as well, duplicate a political party per se. And we saw that play out clearly with Azimio, one-party coalition, coming out and fielding a presidential candidate. And it trickled down to members of parliament, gubernatorial aspirants, senators, members of parliament, including women or woman representatives and members of county assembly. So when they won seats and coming to parliament, where now the two factions had to determine who are the majority, by numbers, and frankly speaking, as a mere numbers are the initial phases of this. But over time, when now on the aftermath of the election, there are some parties which found it prudent or very wise within themselves to cross over to Kenya Kwanza. However, there is this there was a barrier that, the law do not allow political parties to make any significant or substantive, affiliation to a coalition which they were not a party to before the lapse of 3 months on a post-election. But it was within their own feeling that they found liberties and rights to work well with Kenya Kwanza, citing certain reasons why they would not be subjected to, a very, very pressing coalition, as most of them said. So when they came in, they gave numbers to Kenya Kwanza. And because of that, we can say Kenya Kwanza today commands the House by fact. Even in the Senate, the Senate has more of Kenya Kwanza members of the House than they do of Azimio. And to just put it on a summary, is that what the Speaker has done, I think he has done something which is quite sustainable. I say sustainable because there is a case that they can be allowed to seek for redress in a court of law, now the Azimio people. And if they go to court, anyway, the court will give an advisory opinion or even a ruling that, yes, maybe within the readings of the Political Parties Act, these parties which shifted from one coalition to another before the lapse of 3 months were unconstitutional or something. We look forward to such sentiments in court, and even lawyers will talk much to that. But even in the event, look at the cost benefit of all this. Even in the event that courts rule, in the unlikely event anyway, that courts rule that, Azimio has a majority by law in Parliament. But again, they'll still come in, and in the next few months, now in the lapse of the 3 months, they'll still be at liberty to proclaim their previous positions, and they'll come back to Kenya Kwanza, which will not help because it will again provoke the provision of Article 108. So, and they'll still carry out another election. So there's no need. It's very sustainable now that we have such a ruling. Yes, it's very sustainable. That's what I can say.
And Kirui, allow me to also indulge you in this, as in now looking at the fact that the Kenya Kwanza, the ruling divide, is the one that has the muscle in both houses. What do you think about the role of oversight? Won't it somehow be lowered? What is your look on the oversight of the opposition now, as matters are?
Pardon?
Looking at now, the opposition is now somehow submounted because in both houses, they are the minority. How will they be able to execute their role, in your view?
Most of the time, the opposition has always been the minority in both houses. And given that's a situation that prevails in most of the jurisdictions, even outside Kenya, and the opposition is always the minority in the House. But what I always advocate for as a youthful, leader, I'll always advocate for an House with explicit and very clear separation of powers, so that we don't have the legislator in any way, or the legislature in any way, talking to matters of executive so much, to an extent forgetting that they have to carry out 3 mandates as provided for in Article 94, 93, 94, 95, 96 of the Constitution. That's oversight, that's representation, and lawmaking. So, Houses of Parliament anyway should not indulge much in the business of the executive, except in cases which they are supposed to push for certain, policies or certain agendas of the ruling government. But it doesn't mean it should go to an extent of being a compromise. It was the South African jurists who called such houses a rubber stamp house. These are the houses which they don't oppose what really trickle down from their party leaders or maybe whoever is running the state. So I expect still that the National Assembly and the Senate will work and stick to their constitutional mandates of oversighting government, of representing its people or the constituents, and making laws. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Victor Kirui. Unfortunately, we are pressed for time and we'll have to kill it at that. And thank you for actually making time to come today and also